What is up, everybody? It's your boy Doody back again with another video, and this is Doody's attempt to wrap up 2024 in a nice bow and put a period on that year on season 16. And by the way, season 16, chef's kiss. The writers really did a bang up job with it. It was great. We saw so many wonderful story arcs, from Fat Cat making a return to King Be Cruel and causing Phil to spaz out and tell everyone to eat it, and the whole spoon, the Mike Klum documentary, the Review Tech USA story arc with Phil, of course, the Keemstar drama, the Doody drama with Phil has been just chef's kiss all year long. Of course, now we enter into the lawsuit phases of 2025. It's actually started in 22 and 24, but it's extended into 2025, so that should be something fire. And of course, the end of the Kino arc, which has arrived, folks. And yeah, 2024 was an amazing movie year, full of amazing content. And I thought, what better way to wrap up 2024 by doing a financial audit of the year. That's right. We're going to take a look at Phil, how he did for the last week of December, what he did for December, and of course, we're going to track what he did throughout the year. And it's not as great as Phil thinks it is. So I'll just short little spoiler here, but we'll definitely get into it. So, of course, we always take a look at how Phil did during the work week. And for that work week of the last week of the year, Phil managed to make a whopping $2,461. And that was mainly due to the Christmas holiday and the whales feeling generous and dropping some pretty decent cash on Phil. He averaged pretty much every day $300-400. So, it really helped him. The last 2 weeks, Phil did pretty good. And if that support wasn't there, he would have been in some big trouble for December. Because earlier in the month, I was tracking him to make about $5,000 in total contributions for the month. He ended up making $8,500, a little bit over $8,500. So, big ups to the whales for coming in and dropping. And that was mostly due to 2 whales. 2 to 3 whales that came in and dropped some serious cash on Phil. So, he ended up pretty well. He ended up pretty good. And the good thing, too, is Phil didn't have to spend a lot of money on Christmas because all he gave Cat was a used PS4, a used PS5. So that didn't cost him any money. So, yeah, Phil's doing okay. And then from what I gathered, the WWE spending for December has tamped down. It hasn't been as much as it normally is. So big ups to Phil. Maybe he's finally learning. He's finally learning that it doesn't make sense to drop $4K a month on a mobile game. It just doesn't. Your life would be so much easier if you didn't waste that kind of money. All right, so let's just look at the monthly totals for the year. So in 2024, he started off pretty slow. I mean, he was making $5,789. That's what he made in January. And then February, he made even less. Of course, you guys know February was just terrible for Phil. He made $5,245. March, he made $4,937, which is his lowest of the year. And then he started averaging that almost every month, and his ad revenue and his ad views were just pathetic. He was averaging between about $7,500 a month in support for, I would say, the first 7 months of the year. That's what he was making. He was making about that kind of money, about $7,500. Now, I know for most people that's pretty good. I mean, that's some great cash. That's some great money. But for Phil, of course, it's not. So July, all the way from January to July, it was pretty slow for Phil, and it looked like he was going to have a pretty crappy year in 2024. I mean, 2024 numbers were looking less than 2023. He was on pace to losing about 15 to 20% of his income year over year. Now, of course, we know the Kino Casino arc came in August, and this is where Phil saw the renaissance. And Phil maxed out in August, and he made $16,382. Now, a good portion of that was the one stream, where he made about $4,000. And that accounted for a good portion of that amount. But he made $16,382, which is about, it's roughly about $11,000 more than what he was normally making in a given month. And then September, of course, it dipped. It dipped down to about $10,668. And then in October, he came up with the grand idea of streaming in Kick. Now, if he did not stream on Kick, he would have been in a world of hurt because his support had dropped down to $6,452 from a high of $16,382. So with YouTube and the new Kick support, our boy Phil managed to make $10,829. And then in November, that took a big dip. That dropped down to $8,024. And that was mostly due in part because he lost Void, Darkside Pimp stopped contributing, and I believe Ren stopped contributing, and Adam as well. So he lost a good amount of his whales, his Kick support whales. So he dropped down to $8,024. Now, December was looking even worse. December, it looked like he was on pace to get about $6,000. But the last week and a half of December, the whales rallied for Phil. And they were dropping some big donos on him. Mainly the three. Iron Chef Sakai really held it down in December. I mean, Iron Chef Sakai alone, I think, accounted for about $1,500 to $2,000 of this 8,500. So he got lucky that way. But, it was December. Now, January so far is pacing pretty good for him, especially with the first week of support. But of course, that happens every year. Every year in January, for the first week and a half, Phil gets whaled out. And then, of course, it dies. And I think we've started seeing the death of the whaling yesterday with, what do you make, $70 for the whole day? Yeah, it was it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So we can officially say that the Kino arc is dead. Support will eventually dwindle down back to about 5,000 a month, 6,000 a month. Yeah, we just have to give it time. Trust me, it's dropping. Once the novelty, Kick is already drying up. Kick support is already drying up. I mean, he went from a high of about $4,500 of Kick subs down to 2,500 in a matter of 2.5 months. So just give it time. I mean, he has about 40 people watching that content, and 30 of them are LARPers. And the other 10 are just some of his dents that moved over from either YouTube, probably from YouTube, they moved over to Kick. Iron Chef Sakai, some of those idiots. And then right here, you have a breakdown of his total tips and support for 2024. So this is broken out by tips and super chat, which are in blue. The Kick memberships, which are in orange, and then the total. And then you can see here, again, from January to July, the support was abysmal. And then from August to October, it was, it increased because of the Kino arc. And then as you can slowly see for November and December, it's just dropping down again. So you might say to yourself, well, Phil, Phil had a great year. No, not really. Phil did not have a good year. And this is the reason why. Phil, of course, always complains and bitches, or doesn't bitch. He tries to cope over low views by saying it doesn't matter because he's crowdfunded. No, Phil, it does matter. And this is a chart of why it matters. So as you can see here, these are the total views for Phil's 3 channels that he received in 2024. Now, we're not counting Kick because Kick views don't matter in Kick because you don't get ad revenue on Kick, right? So right here, he started off at $600,000 views in January. That dropped to 562 in February. Then it dropped to 422,000 views. Now, if you want to get an idea of how much that is, so essentially for $1 million, for 1 million views, you get about $4,000. If you can manage to get about 1 million views on your channel, you could scrape about close to $4,000 in ad revenue. So that's the basis I'm going to use for the amount of support that Phil got, right? So in April, that increased to 627, and then it dropped again to 537, and then essentially he stayed at between 500 and 600,000 views until, of course, August. August, he maxed out at 790. He hit 790,000 views. September was probably his best month of the year, and his best month in a long time. He got 820,000 views here. And that was mostly due to React content and DSP gaming. So 820,000 views. And then, of course, a month later, he's back down to the 500s. So he's had 534,000 views in October, 534,000 views in November, and then in December, where he had a pretty decent month, he's down to 530,000 views. Now, what you want to notice here is Throwback and React have just died. It just died. He's barely getting anything whatsoever there. The only thing that I think people are watching on his React content are his Feasting with the Pig, and no one is watching DSP Throwback. No one is watching that. He's literally getting like 5 views a video, and he's not even doing the weekly React streams to those stupid playthroughs. So that's a dead channel. So all in all, for 2024, Phil made 7.1 million views. That's a close approximation. So he made about 7.1 million views. Doody, what did Doody make? Doody racked in, I made almost 20 million views. Doody almost got about 20 million views on his channel. So just for perspective. So he got 7.1 million views, which equates to about $28,000 in ad revenue. It's about $28,000. That's what he made this year in ad revenue, $28,000. So if you take that $28,000 that he made in ad revenue, and then you look at his total support for the year, right, which was $97,569. That's what he made total. That's everything. Super chats, tips, kick subs, everything. If you add that up and you add it to the ad revenue in it, you're talking about Phil made $125,000. That's what he made this year, $125,000. Now, you might say that's good. That's good money. But again, we're looking here at Phil. We're looking at Phil here. So in 2023, Phil made he made $125,000 in 2024. In 2023, he had 8 million views. So he had an increase. So he made about $32,000 in ad revenue. So if you take the $32,000 in ad revenue and then you add it to his and you add it to what he made in tips and super chats, right? What did I say? 32,000. He made $109,000. He made $109,000. So for 2023, Phil made $109,000. So Phil made about $16,000 more in 2024 than he did in 2023, and that lines up with the kick money. It lines up with the amount Phil has quoted before, because Phil has said he made about 16. Like when you ask him how much money did he spend on his setup and all that bullshit, he said he spent about $16,000. So all the extra money he made in 2024 from the kick subs and all that shit, that's gone. He spent it all, $16,000, and that's the increase that he made. So this, again, if you want to know what Phil does with his money, he spends his money. Every dollar that comes in, that shit is gone. And if you wonder why he's so paranoid about support every fucking day, and why if he has one day of low support, it's the end of the world, it's because he spends every single dollar that he gets. So I'm pretty sure his fucking bank account right now probably reads zero. It probably reads zero, or it reads $70, the amount of money that he got last night. And that's why he's super paranoid. Because he knows that, if an emergency happens, he's fucked because he has no credit. Now, I want you to remember that 125, that's what he made, right? So if we look in 2022, he made $92,000, right? So he made a little bit less than what he made in 2024, right? But if you take a look at the ad revenue that he got and you add the ad revenue in, so let's add $32,000 to that amount. Bill made $125,000. Bill made $125,000. So he made the exact same amount of money that he made in 2024. So in 2022, Phil made $125,000. In 2023, he made $109,000. And in 2024, he made $125,000. What renaissance is this, Phil, again? Like, Phil loves to talk about how much support he gets, how much engagement he gets, how his views are up. No, bro. The numbers don't add up. This fictitious narrative that you're trying to put out there that, you're back. No, bro, you're not back. You're not back at all, bro. Your numbers are garbage. And what the big number here that you need to take away from this is you have to look at views. You do. I know Phil doesn't want to be Mr. Views, But I mean, he's literally lost 1.4 million views in less than 2 years. So he's averaging, he's averaging about a 5 to 600,000 view loss every year. And that's not chump change. Again, I told you, for every $1 million, for every million views, that's about $4,000. So he's literally, because his content is shit, because he wants to wage quit, because he wants to harp on kick, because he's so focused on that short-term money for the goals. Long term, he's losing money because his views are tanking and he's not getting that ad revenue. So when you're curious to know why is he begging even though he's hitting his goals every day, it's this. His views are tanking, his engagement is tanking, he's not getting ad revenue, and he knows that amount of support that he's getting now from these 2 or 3 whales, that eventually that'll end. And what'll happen is he won't get a bump in views, so that ad revenue is gone as well, on top of everything. So we may get a 4th channel coming out in 2025. If the support starts slowing down, Phil might actually create another new channel and try to exploit memberships and all that nonsense all over again. So anyway, folks, in conclusion, 2024 was a better year for Phil, but long-term 2025, the prospects don't look good. And Phil better do something about his views. His view counts are horrific. And if this trend keeps going, pretty soon, I mean, he's going to be making no ad revenue. He's going to be making literally nothing on ad revenue. And I'm sorry, views matter. Because the more views you get, the more eyes on your channel you get, the more subs you get, the more potential contributors you get, Phil. And the more ad revenue you get. But anyway, I think I'm speaking into the ether over here because Phil doesn't pay attention to anyone. Maybe in 10 years he'll watch this video and realize that he needs to change. Anyway, folks, that's it. That's 2024 in a nutshell. A pretty decent year for Phil, but nowhere near some glorious renaissance. He's essentially back to 2022, which Phil will tell you again was nowhere his high water mark. Phil used to average about 130 to 135 when he was on Twitch. So, the money's still drying up there, Phil. Alrighty, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace out.